Afternoon all, talking trade live with On the Tools. I'm sitting in a boiling van, the sun's out. Apparently some people have got snow, so God knows what's happening. So what better time to have the show after 12 on a Thursday, because this week I'm going to throw it out there because it's a great subject. What is the hardest trade to learn? Now, we had a little chat off air. Is this hardest as in physically hardest? Is this hardest as in learning, such as in the classroom, electrician, plumber, etc.? Drop comments in. We're going to have a good old row, as us trades love to do. Three very different tradespeople, which is really good, and it's going to add to the mix. We've got the Candle Man, who changed his name from Mark. He's a decorator up in the Midlands. We've got good old Karen, who everyone knows is a great spark, and James Bricklayer from Leeds Way. Welcome all. First question, Karen. You use your brain a lot because you have to sit in a classroom with electricians, probably more than any other trade. Do you think that makes you guys one of the hardest trades to learn? Because I couldn't do it.
Yeah, it's certainly there's a lot of maths involved, and also it's not just the classroom stuff. You obviously go through all of that learning, but then when you actually get out there in the real world, well, everything works in the classroom. That's where your brain really comes in, because when you're in a fault finding situation, you really need to think about things. So you're constantly thinking about the job that you're doing, the problems that you might have come across in the job the day before, and what you're doing tomorrow. It's certainly you need a very active brain to be a Sparks.
On the flip side, Mark, decorating, how would you put that in terms of difficulty to learn?
Yeah, I think it's one of the hardest trades to learn, because we've normally got to correct all the plastering, all the second fix chippy work. We have to put everything else right to make ours look good. And the only trade they seem to snag on a new build site is the painters. So if the plastering is no good, they normally blame it on the painters. If the woodwork is not up to scratch, it's the painter's fault. So we've got to overcome all that.
Valid point. Everyone send comments in. Let's have a good old open discussion straight away. Barry Binnett says decorating's the easy part, Mark. So he's not on board with that.
Well, that's what they say, isn't it? If you can pay, you can paint. But it's not the case.
Well, now, James, bricklaying, mate.
Yeah.
I'm going to stick my neck out here. Running the line, and I appreciate you've got corbelling and stonework and working with, lime, all the rest of it. But would you say basic brickwork is relatively straightforward to pick up, or would you disagree?
Disagree massively. So many people think that, and that's why you've got work on certain types of house building sites. One that's very popular that I probably shouldn't mention on here, but a lot of work looks like a climbing frame. So I would say running into that line still takes a lot of skill, because as you can see, gable ends, fronts and backs, the brickwork just looks absolutely horrendous, and that's because it hasn't been run into the line. So yeah, I would say it still takes a lot of skill to even be a line monkey.
Well, I'm loving these comments. Keep them coming in. Dan, I can't pronounce your surname. Sorry, mate. Sparky, the hardest to learn. Plumbing is easy because shit flows downhill. There we go. Dan has completely finished the show, so we're done now. We're only 4 minutes in. So, yeah, keep these all coming in. Oh, Alec Baker, underpinning. James, kind of nearest to you out of all the trades.
Yeah.
That's not an easy job, is it, mate? I hate it.
It's something that I've not personally done myself, but I've seen it being done, and it is pretty technical. You need lots of preparation. A lot goes into it. You do have to use your brain. There's a lot of calculating and stuff like that. So, and it is an hard day's work as well, because you've got to work around everything else. You've got to work around what's been done probably hundreds of years ago. So you don't know what you're going to come up against. Yeah, them underpinners, they have it pretty difficult, to be fair.
Well, Nathan Marshall's probably said something which is the most sensible so far. All trades are different to learn. No one's going to admit theirs is easier than the other. I think that's a fair comment, but we're here to have a little bit of a row, Nathan. So I appreciate your honesty. Karen, what do you think physically Obviously, I believe you with electrics. You got to is a lot of work learning in the classroom physically, because to me, all trades have got that element. You look at bricklaying. If you haven't got a labour, you've got to lug all the bricks and blocks and knock your own gauge up. Roofing, you're lugging up your 8x2s. Plumbers have got to take their handbag out the van. So that's quite hard work. What do you reckon, Karen?
Well, physically, it's not always the actual. I could be on a job for 4 hours and spend 15 minutes connecting two cables together, and the other 3 hours and 45 minutes getting that cable from one place to the other. You've got your floorboards to come up, or you've got to get in the loft. You've got to chisel out walls. You've got to think about routing. You've got to think about cable zones. You've got to think about, are you complying with all the regs that you've got to comply with? I mean, what other trade has got a regs book that's like 3,000 million pages long? None, as far as I know.
No, I do agree, Karen. I do agree. I just want to say
there's a lot that goes into it.
Denver Chorner, this is what this show's good for. He came on a few weeks ago asking for some advice of getting into a trade. He wanted to join our great industry, and we had a chat. And congratulations, mate. He's got himself onto a plumbing course. So anyone watching that wants to join us, if you're a youngster, if you're changing profession later on in life, get in touch with this show and we'll put the feelers out. A massive congratulations, Denver. I'm over the moon for you. Back onto the subject this week, which is who's the hardest, or what's the hardest trade to learn? Back to you, Mark.
Yeah.
In terms of decorating, listen, if you can piss, you can paint is a common expression, but you made a good point. Spreads can make your life a misery. Chippies, arcs, skirts, all the rest of it can make it a nightmare. Would you say you've got to have the most widespread ability to make everyone else's work look good?
Yeah, I mean, like I say, I do a lot of the new builds, and especially when you've finished, when you've completed painting the plot, then it gets snagged. They're always picking fault. One of the biggest things to pick fault on is the wall areas. And as far as I'm concerned, a plaster finished wall, it should be a finished product, but it never is. There's always problems with the plastering, and it's normally up to us guys to put it right. And a lot of the time, we have to put it right at our own expense. And when it comes down to like the carpentry work, we have to deal with nails sticking out, mitre's not done correctly, and that all affects the overall finish of what we're trying to achieve. So we always get ripped to bits and fault picked with our work, and it's not necessarily down to us.
No, it's a fair point, James. I want to hear your response on the latest comment from Danny Martins. Renderers make dodgy brickies' job look good.
He's not wrong.
The thing is, though, mate, surely if you're running the line as a brickie, you've got to be proud at what you leave behind. Now, we all know new builds, not naming any national developers, but we know who they are. Certain plank walls can be climbing walls. Do you think that's down to the tradespeople having shit skills, or them being under pressure to get it done for next to nothing as soon as possible?
Yeah, well, almost every brickie in country who works on a site nowadays is self-employed, and obviously the term self-employed means self-employed. So you're there as yourself, as a business, so to speak. You are a business if you're on a site as a brickie. So you should always want to take pride in what you do, no matter what the rush is. I'm in process now of recruiting, and I'm telling the people that are coming on board, we're not going to fall behind because you're here on a morning and you're there at night. You do a good job and you fall behind when you have to go back to put work right. If we get it right the first time, you don't have to go back to it and put it right. That's it. It gets passed off we go, move on to the next one. We're out of there, and it gets passed on. So if you take pride in your work, get it right the first time, it not gets picked up. You're all right. Off you go on to the next one. But yeah, renderers can save you a little bit, and some brickies use it as an excuse when they're building a house that's going to be rendered. Because even if it's like the slightest bit out, those guys, all right, renderer will get it. But no, I actually got into trouble off my mate who was a renderer because I pointed the block work and he didn't like it. He says, no, just push it up. It's better. You can't see where joints are going, and I don't have to pack it out as much. So just flush it up on outside. It doesn't matter what it's look like. It's getting rendered.
But that's right from your point of view, James. You want it to look nice. It doesn't take 2 minutes to dong up block work. It looks neat. So I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah. So yeah, but always take pride. Don't matter if as for them, if you're up your ass, just tell them to do one and just say I'm doing a good job of it. It's going to look well. Leave me alone.
Well, we've had a few opinions on. Michael Ainsworth reckons the painter looks way more tired than the others. I bet he's actually 23. Does that mean you work harder than everyone, Mark, or are you a bit older than that?
Oh yeah. We have to graft in the house bashing game, and it is quite physical, especially on the top half of your body when you're rolling ceilings and walls out, crawling around concrete floors with your knee pads on. Yeah, it is physical, and I'm only 26, but I look about 53 now, don't I?
Yeah, I mean, fair play. You've obviously had a rough life on the rollers and cutting in. We had a comment earlier. Someone saying caulking is a difficult trade. I really hope that was a joke because, it's well, we all know what caulking is, isn't it? As long as you've got a finger and a thumb, you can do it. Right. Keep comments coming in. What I want to do at the end of the show is have a quick vote for everyone to suddenly throw in their comment, and we're going to have a quick summary. Who is the hardest trade to learn? Which one is it in your eyes? And we can look at from what Karen said in terms of understanding it and having more study work like an electrician, or physical craft such as lugging up 8x2s up scaffolding to pitch a roof. So let's have a vote in about where are we? About 10 to 15 minutes. We'll have a good summary at the end. Right, Karen, back to you. You self-certify, as do gas plumbers, gas engineers. Slightly off topic, but kind of going towards the quality side of things. Do you think we should be licensed? Because then the quality from everyone's going to be the same, which means in turn everyone's going to have to work that much bit harder.
Yeah, definitely. It's a bit of a bugbear, isn't it? It's like, we come up with all these rules and we come up with all these regs and we come up with these notification schemes and we come up with all this legislation, but anybody can go to B&Q and buy a fuse board. And I think, it devalues it devalues the trade, in the same, I'm in the same way that, everybody gets taught how to make a circuit at school in physics, so suddenly everybody's an electrician. There's a massive difference between making something work and making something safe. And with regards to all the trades, there's quite a lot. You're not going to die. You're not going to die if your window is slightly wonky, are you? Whereas if you haven't done your calculations correctly and your cable's too small and your breaker's too big, there's potential for fire, isn't there? So
okay, Karen, let me ask you one question. This baffles me, and I'd love to hear everyone else's view on it if you're a spark. As you know, you can obviously, once you're qualified, sign off your own work if it's NIC, IC or NAPIT, whoever. However, me as a multi-trade, I can first and second fix a house I'm doing up, get building control to sign it off. How do they know what cables I've run under floors and in ceilings once it's closed off and what connections I've made to the board? Or am I missing something?
I wasn't aware that you could get building control to sign it off. I thought that you had to have. I think if building control sign it off, what they actually do is they employ an electrician to come and test and inspect it, and that electrician will sign it off via the Part P scheme. That's my understanding. I don't think the building inspector can sign it off.
No, but what my point is they're not going to be there all the time. They don't know the shortcuts people could have made. If you, as an electrician, are doing your own work, you know what standard you've done it to.
Yeah. And for that reason, a lot of quality sparks will not sign off other people's work because they don't know. They don't know whether you've grommeted everything. They don't know whether you've run the cables in the correct zones. They don't know whether you've puts 69 junction boxes under the floor.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for that reason, a lot of sparks won't do it.
No, I agree. And listen, at the end of the day, sign it off. You put in your name against someone that could, sadly have an accident. Worst case, kill themselves. Right, back to the hardest trade. Matt Scanlon straight in with landscaping, and kind of closest to you, this James, sort of with your brickwork outside. He says going from brickwork to stone masonry to patios to fencing, different patios with different materials, slabs or edging. Obviously, you've got your porcelain in there. Requires different ways of cutting. Porcelain especially becoming more popular. You're right, it's an absolute ball ache cutting that stuff. If it chips, it's 50 quid down the pan. James, landscaping, Matt Scanlon's put across a good view. Would you agree with him?
Yeah, definitely. I appreciate a good landscaper. It includes like so much. There's a lot to it. There's not just laying bricks. There's not just putting a bit of type 1 down and laying some 450 by 450 flags on top of it. It's not just, it's a bit of everything. Like he says, the porcelain, the flagging, the turf, the boundaries, a few steps, water features. I've got a mate who's a landscaper, and he does some absolutely unbelievable work. He does some real nice luxury garden spaces. He could like transform your garden from what looks like an old council house, typical estate looking garden to you'd see on an executive new build house. So landscapers, yeah, definitely a difficult trade to learn because you're learning about 5 or 6 trades all in one.
Yeah. If you've just joined us, we're halfway through this week's Talking Trade Live, and we are discussing what is the hardest trade to learn. I think at the moment, from comments coming in and discussions with my 3 guests, we've got landscaping and electrical work is the sort of, at the moment, up the top. Now, Mark, I'm going to throw this in there. Being a multi, spreading, I think, is hard work. You having to cover up a lot of crap work are going to vouch for this. Would you say spreading is pretty hard to learn, judging by the rubbish you've seen over the years?
Yeah, I wouldn't like to be doing that trade. I think it is quite a hard job to learn, and a lot of the time you're doing it in poor weather conditions, etc. So yeah, I agree. It must be a hard trade.
So spreading possibly at the moment, everyone, let us know what you think. And if you agree, we've got landscaping and electrics up there as the hardest to learn. I suppose James is the closest to landscaping. So if either of these win, then James or Karen have got to go and, I was going to say buy everyone a pint, but we're not allowed in the bloody pubs yet. So let's, Michael Ainsworth, I like your sense of humour, my friend. He says an architect's the hardest trade. Oh, wait, it's not a bloody trade. Yeah, fair point, mate. Let's put a few measurements into the computer, let it spit out some drawings. Okay, James, back to you. Landscaping. That's another one of these jobs that can make or break a project, can't it? A rough landscaper, no matter how nice the house is, it can ruin it.
Yeah. It's got to look bang on because there's so much to it. There's loads of different stuff you can have. Like I said about a water feature, you can have steps that are slightly out because they're not. It's like a little bit of every trade. So it's like a little bit of brickwork, a little bit of porcelain flagging, a little bit of turf, a little bit of a planter or something like that. And every single little tiny detail of all them different aspects of landscaping need to be 100% perfect. And if one of them looks a dog, it'll just make the whole job look bad.
Right, what I'm going to do, we've got about 10 minutes left. We'll have a little vote at the end. I'm going to bring up each trade, or certainly the majority of them, and I'm going to go around the guests, and we're going to have basically, is it a hard trade to learn? So a bit of fun, and then at the end, we'll go down to the last 3 and get everyone to vote on it. So, Karen, starting with you, let's go electric. It's pretty tough to learn, would you say?
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. And as well, if you think about all the changes in technology, from electricity the way it was even 10 15 years ago to now, you've got it's one of the trades that's become so much more advanced because of all the new technology that's coming on board in the world. So you've got to keep up with that as well. So it's not just learning it, you're learning every single day because new stuff's coming on the market every single day.
Mark, would you say roofing is a hard trade to learn?
Roofing?
Yeah. What's your view on that, mate?
I don't know. I never see a roofer.
That's because they're stuck up there. No one knows what they're doing. I mean, a roofer as in cutting in all the valleys, all the lead work. You know, obviously felt, batten, tiling. Is it a really hard trade to learn?
Well, I think once they know what they're doing, I don't think it's that hard to earn the money on or anything like that. So, yeah, it's probably slightly physical, but I wouldn't have thought it'd be that hard to learn.
Right,
myself.
roofing's off the list, so we're straight on to James. Scaffolding, a hard trade to learn.
I'm going to say yeah, because every scaffolder is an absolute nutcase, and if they hear me say no, they'll just come and kick me head in. But
Right,
no,
James has got his skirt on today, so the real answer is no, it's not hard. So he's just worried that some scaff's going to come around and stick a pole through the back of his van. So scaffolding's off the list. Karen, plumbing, is that a tough trade to learn?
I'm gonna have to say yes, because you know, there is some science involved in it, isn't there? You know, water doesn't flow on its own, and gas is, at the end of the day, a flammable substance. So I'm going to go yes.
Interesting, right? So we've got plumbing in it. Mark, obviously we have one of these on, but I'm not going to ask him. What do you think about bricklayers, brickwork, stonemasons? Would you class that as a hard trade to learn?
Yeah, I think there's quite a lot of skill involved in learning those types of trades. So, yeah, I'd definitely say it's quite a hard trade to learn.
So,
James, over to you, landscapers. I think I know where you sit on this.
Well, first of all, I regret everything I've ever said about painters. You're not all that bad after all. Yeah, landscapers, like I said, difficult trade to learn because it's not just one trade to me, it's a load of trades all in one.
Karen, carpenters. I'll classify joiners as part of that because we'll be here all day otherwise. So carpentry, joinery, first, second fix, cabinet making. Hard trade to learn?
Yes, I think if you're at the top of your trade, that is a hard trade to learn because there's a lot of maths in it. There's a lot of skill in, you know, choosing materials, using the right tools. So I'm going to go yes.
No, I agree with that. Now, Mark, spreading, plastering. Hard trade to learn?
Yeah, I'd say so. I wouldn't fancy having to do it, and the conditions that they have to work in as well. So, yeah, I think there's quite a lot of skill involved in it, personally. Not all of them who call themselves plasterers can actually do the job. Same with painting. You know, there's plenty of painters that say they can paint, but they can't. But yeah, when it comes to spreading, any plastering, there is quite a degree of skill involved, I think, with that.
Demolition, James. Where do you sit on that? How hard is it?
Demolition. I'm being 100% honest. That's the first time I've heard demolition being called a trade.
Well, okay, let me bring it into groundworks, demo and groundworks. Then let's open it up a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, groundworks. Groundworks is, well, it depends. There's two types of groundworks, isn't there? There's your machine monkeys who sit there playing with paddles all day, digging stuff up, and then there's the proper grafters that are on floor on shovel, doing your drainage, doing the setting out, doing brainy stuff and donkey work. So them ones have it hard, but them machine monkeys, no. Demolition, to be fair, it probably is quite hard on your body, but it don't take much brain work. You just run in with a sledgehammer and do your thing.
So if you're in the Leeds area, James Norton here basically thinks scaffolding, any demo work, groundworkers is a piece of piss. He's sitting in his van. He'd love to come and have a chat with you. Hey, let's have a good old wind up.
Come on.
Right, let's Karen, just to sort of get the last few together. I think we've got to get a bit of a short list here. Off this list so far, we've got plumbers, sparks, carpenters, bricklayers and spreads are on the list. Which one would you take off that list? I think we need to get it down to 3 and then we'll put it out for a vote.
That is a hard one, but if it's got to be one, I'm going to go spreads.
Oh, spreads have gone. So Karen's I believe in the Midlands. So if you're looking for any plastering work, she's a big fan. So Mark, out of electricians, plumbers, bricklayers, landscapers, which one would you knock off that list?
I'm going to have to go with landscapers. It can't be that hard to learn, can it, really? I mean, in the garden, chuck that bark all over the mud, throw the turf down, pattern it with a scaffold plank. Yeah, I'm going to have to go for landscapers. Sorry, guys.
Do you know, when we're allowed to, we need to do this show live in the studio with everyone, because I think by the end of it, we're going to be having tear-ups and a roll around on the floor. And that's what's great about this show. We can have a good old honest chat. Right, so we're down at the final three. We're down to sparks, plumbers, and bricklayers. So we've got a couple of minutes left. I'm going to pick each guest, and if everyone can put a comment in and vote who is the hardest, what's the hardest trade to learn, we'll have an overall winner at the end. James, to summarise, sparks, plumbers, or bricklayers? Hardest trade to learn, mate.
Let's eliminate plumbers, because nowadays it's not proper plumbing, is it? It's just push fit.
That's brilliant. I love it.
Getting a couple of pipes, pushing them together. There's none. If I'm gonna go by what older boys have told me and stuff like that, plumbing's absolutely not like. To be fair, no trade is, but plumbing has got to be one of the most simple trades to learn, in my opinion. So that leaves us with sparkies and brickies. Sparkies, you've got to use a lot of brain power, but it's not physically demanding. Bricklaying's probably all the way around. Very physically demanding, but once you've got hang of it, after standard apprenticeship for bricklaying is 2 years in it. So I think after that 2 years, maybe six or 8 more months on site, you should have hang of it. Then it's just your body that takes over instead of your brain.
Listen, let's be fair, Bricky. If you've got a decent labour, it's not that hard graft, is it? Karen, electrics or bricklaying? Where is your vote?
Well, obviously it's electrics. Yeah, and if only for the fact that, you know, in the last 12 months alone, you know, at least, you know, advancements in wiring have changed so much. You know, we've now got switches with kinetic energy that mean that you don't have to run a switch line hundreds of meters down the garden. You know, you can make your lights work from inside your house. You can't build a wall remotely, can you? I'm going to go sparks just because of the product knowledge that you have to have. I mean, I'm not a brickie. I'm not saying it's a simple job, but there's probably a finite number of bricks that you'll need to know about, and there probably hasn't been 100 different types of bricks that have come onto the market in the last 12 months.
Right, I'm going to lead Karen. I've got to read some comments out to support your view, because I'm absolutely dying here. Simon Lovett, brickies don't have to mix. Let's have a look at the other ones. Ryan Olden, bricklayers, one on top of the other, not that hard to learn. This is genius. Simon Lovett is back with another one. My grandson can lay a brick. So, judging by comments, I think we're going towards sparks here. Mark, sparks or brickies, harder trade to learn?
I'd say learning to be a spark's got to be one of the hardest to learn. I think once you know the basics of bricklaying, then it can't be that hard, can it? Like you said, most of it's done for them anyway. They ain't got to carry anything, mix anything. So, you know what I mean?
Well, listen, everyone, we have literally got a minute and a half left. Please send in your votes. Sparks or bricklayers? What is the hardest trade to learn? At the moment, sparks is winning, which, let's be fair, as Karen said, there's a lot of classroom-based stuff, keeping up with regs and all the changes to the regs, which, you know, is something I couldn't do. But physically, we've had bricklayers shot to pieces by everybody. This is brilliant. Next time when we're allowed, we're going to do this in a boxing ring. We're going to have a corner each, and we're all going to meet in the middle, because this is just great fun. Oh, look, here we go. The votes are coming in. I've got to say, according to not just the viewers, but also my three great guests this week, the hardest trade to learn is sparks. Electricians, you've been voted the hardest trade to learn. I think, judging by everything we've gone through and the reasons why, I'd kind of agree with that, which makes you go to sort of realise that's why they've got so much money. That's why they all drive Rolls Royces and Bentleys. They've got a leaf blower to blow all the 50s out the way to get to the front door in the morning, and they live in a whacking great house. And they have staff quarters, west wing, east wing, maids, cooks, the lot. So there we go. Sparks, you've been voted the hardest trade to learn. Keep in touch. Keep comments coming in after this. What topics would you like to see on Talking Trade? And once this COVID gets out the way, we're going to be doing it in a boxing ring. We're going to have a proper old school tear up, because really this is a lot of fun. Have a great week. See you next Thursday.